Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode on the podcast. In this episode, I shared an incredible conversation with a woman that has such a beautiful presence, powerful, but so gentle and heartwarming. Her name is Sophie Saba. She is a women's coach and mentor, and what she brings to the world is medicine to help women connect back to their power, but also to heal this planet. And it was such a really interesting conversation because I didn't know Sophie before this conversation. She was recommended by her brother, who was a previous guest, Jamie, and the recommendation I got from him was just so powerful that I was like, I need to talk to this person. And I knew it straight away that it was going to be an amazing conversation. And yeah, I can't wait for you to dive deep into this one. Some of the things we spoke about was the inner archetypes. Now, this is something that I knew a little bit of, but she really dived deep into the masculine and the feminine roles that we all have within us, but also how they impact the role that you play in wherever you are in life right now, but also how it affects your emotions and plays out in your relationship. So a really powerful one to listen to. The transformation of becoming a parent and the identity shifts that come with this. Being someone that's become a parent this year myself, it's that feeling that the unknown, but also the appreciation that if you're a parent right now, that you can have for this journey unfolding in becoming an important role of society, being a parent. And if you don't have kids, a better understanding to when you do have children, how that will impact you. And then also being devoted to your life and your purpose. I think this was a beautiful way of looking at it. Is sometimes we go into life like we're doing it, but are we really doing it? But when you devote yourself to the role that you're playing or to your life or your purpose, it starts to create a whole different world for you. And one of the other big things is effective communication, which I think is just such an important topic right now. It comes up on the podcast a lot in conversation, so there must be a reason. Maybe it's the guest that I'm talking to, but it is really good. I'm learning a lot, and I know that you will too. Like I said, this is a really powerful conversation. I think no matter where you are, come in with an open mind, open heart, and there's going to be so many things that you can take away from this and start understanding more about yourself and also how you go about your relationships and your life. Before we kick off, I always like to say thank you. I am so grateful that you are taking time to listen in or watch. For me, this podcast is such a joy to offer and my gift to the world, and it's part of my purpose, and it's something that I started 5 years ago and has just developed and evolved. Just like our life, how there's just a roller coaster of things, it's been able to give me this platform to connect with amazing people, but also share incredible conversations. So for all of you that are here, I'm so grateful. Thank you for following on social media, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or wherever it may be. If you're watching on YouTube, awesome. I love that you're sitting in with us in the conversation. But even if you're listening, wherever you're listening, if you just took 1 second right now to click subscribe, to click like, it means so much and it helps so much my channel in growing this podcast and helping me impact more people. I say this all the time, but we've been able to reach nearly 3 million people on social media in the past 8 weeks, which is absolutely wild. It's great data. It doesn't mean anything in terms of, remuneration, but 3 million people getting this message of consciousness, getting this positive message into their life, that's just incredible. And it is what I am aiming to do, is to reach as many people as possible. So I appreciate you being here. Click, like, do all the things, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Sophie.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
It's I've been trialing just the past couple of weeks, past few interviews. Is we went for a walk to get a coffee, and it's nice because we get to have a chat. You get to hear about me, and because that never really happens in an interview because I'm asking the questions to you. But it was really nice, and I like that because now we're coming into this, and it's not like I don't know this person. It's like, no, I felt your energy.
Yeah.
I like this. And I was going through your Instagram this morning, having a little stalk, and a lot of things stood out, but one quote that you put up under a post was, your new life will cost you your old one. And I want you to expand on why.
Okay. Oh, thank you for just adjusting me there. That post. So when I talk about the way in which we kind of envision that we'd like to grow, a life that we'd like to create, relationships, abundance, success. When we are envisioning something bigger and we've had this timeline previously with all these different events, usually it's because what we've experienced previously, we're ready to up level, okay? And to up level means that there's probably a bit of a death cycle that has to partake for us to birth the new. Working as a woman and understanding the cyclical cycle of how that works, I am all about embracing that. So things that might come through when you're sacrificing and moving into a new version of yourself looks like old identities, old relationships, old thought patterns, old, belief systems, things that made you feel comfortable but also kept you stagnant. And when we are exchanging that over for the next stage, it is going to cost you that death cycle. There is a part that you have to be ready to birth a new version of you and get to know yourself. So that's kind of the foundation, the premise of that post that I put up.
I love it. I also know that there's that resistance that gets met, because I know for me, I know that process has needed to happen or is happening, but it's like, but I don't want to let go of that.
Yeah. So, we're such interesting, I think that's the best terminology, as humans, right? So we're made up of the cognitive, we're made up of the somatic, we're made up of the psyche, and all parts of, particularly the cognitive, right? For me, if you're in your head, you're dead. That's the part. So in the head, we're made up of this huge subconscious filing system of all the things you've ever been through, and we stash them away, and they are the files that essentially you are going to relate to, that you know. And there's a safety in knowing that. So when we are trying to embrace a new part of ourselves, we have no evidence of that, right? So the subconscious's only job is to survive. So when something new comes up, the very first thing we want to do when we're trialing out something and we've got no data on that is we want to self-sabotage, right? Because what we know and familiar is what we feel comfortable with. So forming a relationship with discomfort, being like, whoa, I'm in unknown territory. These relationships are breaking down around me. People are saying things about me. I'm not really liked right now. But this is what I feel in me. This is what I'm feeling is right for me. It takes immense amount of courage to follow that feeling. And understanding, having a relationship with our feelings, I think, is the biggest gateway to knowing that. Having a relationship with hurt, understanding your files and your timeline of your hurt, having a relationship with your anger, right? Understanding your anger, frustration, having a relationship with understanding that, knowing that that's a process, it can come and it can go. But my truth is still laced in courage, and that's where I'm willing to go. That's what I find when, we hand in that old part of ourselves. Yeah.
And maybe there's someone right now listening and they're like, I feel that, like I'm going through that.
Yeah.
What would you say is helpful for someone that's in that transition period?
Yeah, so there's so many ways that we can support ourselves, like I was saying, when it comes to cognitive, right? The brain's beautiful, right? In terms of the mind, if we think something, we can change it. Great. Our emotions, they are wonderful gateways to feeling into the human experience. So let's feel them. So let's find places that support us in feeling our feelings, not suppressing them. Let's find ways that we can look at the mind as this incredible, computer system. Like, oh, cool, how can I take that file, rewrite it and make that work for me? How can I sit with this space of my spirit and getting to know my spirit come through? How can I work with my somatic body so that everything is coming online to be supported? Who do I have to surround myself with? What do I need to do to change? And that's the biggest piece for me, is that I do find the self-sabotage looks like this. I might sabotage my relationship because guess what? When I grew up, I've put it together that my parents demonstrated this relationship, so that's just how I carry out. But that's the shadow side of who we are because we become attached to that. When really the question is, and people think, I've done the work, I know why I am like that, but the question is, who do I have to become to be that person? Cool. What does that look like? How do I eat? How do I look? Who am I with? How do I present myself? Because without future reference of what that looks like, you have to create the feeling so that you have a better chance of making that quantum jump to being who you are. So when I work a lot with timeline therapy, and one big part I do is, future timelines, right? So we process all of the icky stuff, all the uncomfortable stuff, and we get to here, and it's like, okay, cool. We have an understanding of what it's like to be through sadness, anger, hurt, all that sort of thing. And I always say to them, I'm like, okay, Carlo, if we've just watched the movie of Carlo, right? I've just seen your journey. I've seen each scene.
It's a long one.
It's still going to be longer. You're only 30, babe.
Get ready because there's a lot of plot twists in there. Yeah.
Well, the ultimate scene is coming up. It's the scene in every movie you see, and you're like, oh, this is where they've done it. They've won. You can see joy, abundance, peace in like this moment's where they've won. It's the Rocky Balboa scene, right? Mm-hmm. He wins the fight. What would that look like to you? That's what I ask my clients. What's your winning scene? For some people, it's sitting on beautiful acreage. For some people, it's being with family. Some people, it's standing in the front of a lot of people, right? Cool. Cognitively, that's what it looks like. How would you feel? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? How do you stand? What are you wearing? The more that we can create this sensory experience of a lived version of that, you have new evidence. You have this cellular understanding. It's like, oh, that feels good. That feels good. I need more of that. And I understand that this all hurt, and I understand I probably need less of that because I'm not going to romanticize and stay attached to that. This is where I'm going to romanticize. So that was a very long-winded answer of like what I mean in terms of the way that our mind might want to keep us caught.
Yeah. But so many points to dive in on there, but I want to know, because I don't know too much about you. I've only had a little stalk and heard from your wonderful brother, Jamie, who's been on the podcast and a good friend of mine.
He's a good egg.
He is. Who are you? What has brought you to who you are today? And then we'll talk about what you actually do.
I love this question, right? So, who am I? I'm play. I'm love. I'm silly. I'm expression. I'm joy. I'm self-proclaimed hilarious. I am feeling. I'm unity. I'm deep. And by that statement of just like I am, I'll just share with you quickly. Just recently, me and my co-facilitator in Bali, we were creating this piece to introduce the opening ceremony of Amplified Awakening. We wanted to back it with our cultural appropriation of being Māori woman. And we were creating this beautiful piece around the Stan Walker song called I Am, right? Which is hugely impactful, but it talks about us as a Māori culture wanting to bring back unity and love. And we were creating this expressive piece, right? So we're making these moves and we're doing this thing, and it got too big for us. It got bigger than us, and we were like, whoa, I'm crying, you're crying, I can't. We realized it was too much, so we parked it and said, look, next retreat, we need to spend more time on that. But the most beautiful thing that came out of that is every single day we message each other and we just say, good morning, Morena, I am. It's just simple, I am. And in that statement means that I'm everything. I'm potentiality. Today I am this, and tomorrow I might be that. So when I talk about all of those things that I am, I would put those into that. All of those parts of who I am serve me as being committed and devoted as a mother, committed and devoted to being a wife, and committed and devoted to being of service to my community.
I love that. And obviously I know a little bit from our walk, but what do you think you're here to share?
I am here to share that the aliveness of me owning my womanhood serves as being in my relationship, and how that me and my husband together, we created these children. And then the love that I have for this part here is so abundant that I can then pass that on to other people within my community that might want to use it to support that. That's their triangle too. So whenever I'm thinking of anything, Carlo, for me it's like, what is left of me at the end of this journey is my legacy. And not even tangible items, but it's the words. The words that are passed down about me are the only things that exist. And so the words that I hope my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren share are that, you know, nanny or mum or my great-nanny, she was love. She loved so deeply and so fiercely, and we constantly felt it. That's what I'm here for. And it's from my own embodiment of these two parts that I share that with community, because I believe that if every woman and man was activated in their deep knowing of who they were, that's where we can put it into the core foundation of community and village growing. That's what I feel the most passionate about.
Yeah. I love that. Just gonna move this up a little bit.
Yeah.
I love that because I can see it in you, how you're sharing it, that it's not just like, you know, you didn't give an answer like, oh, I do it because it makes money, or I do it because of this. It's not a surface level. There's depth to it.
Yeah.
And what is it that you actually
do?
The gifts that you share. You do and share with the world.
So in terms of the way that I would serve and the gifts that I would give, is that I work in ways of bringing us back into full feeling, which have been a collection of my own work, which I've been in since I was about 18. I don't know if Jamie shared this, but our oldest sister, who's 11 years older than me, 13 years older than Jamie, she actually sent us both on our 18th birthdays to inner peace retreats, right? 18-year-old Sophie got in the car, I was like, I don't want to go to this, I want a new pair of boots. Like, I was like real shady. I got there and that was the first experience I had of deep connection with other humans. And so
what was it? It
was an inner peace retreat.
Inner peace retreat.
Inner peace retreat. So think of something, you know, because I'm 38, that's nearly 20 something years ago. And it was the first maybe self-development that might have been we were exposed to. But it was from that moment on that I knew that there was a connection with me wanting to connect further with humans and get to know them. And so continuing on in my own journey of, you know, being here, I went through lots of modalities, right? So I started off in women's circles, and then I continued to then hold my own women's circles, and then through my observation of the way women really felt and expressed themselves, I then went on to do breathwork, because for me stories are really important, but for some people they can't use words. So the breath was the ally I used, and the breath is what I offered to the sisters and then to the brothers too. Timeline therapy, you know, cognitive behaviors, some sound. I feel really passionate about sematics, so being in the body, embodiment sematics. Yeah, they're the kind of things I offer in a tangible sense, I think. If that's what you're kind of looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why do you do it? Because they're all such powerful gifts and modalities, and you know, even from someone that's been in I say similar in the way of really impactful communities, sessions, events, experiences that have helped me connect with myself, and hosting them and facilitating those as well. It's so like I know why I do it, but it's a choice to do it. You don't have to. You could just be a participant.
Totally.
Why do you choose to share those gifts?
I choose to share those gifts because my main crux for men and women is to feel back alive in yourself, not just to live. What I witness around me is people living robotically, right? So the elements that I offer in one-on-one mentorship, small groups, retreats, all of that is to remind people that externally we can fill our life with all the things, but really right in here is where the creme de la creme is, of knowing ourselves and feeling alive. Feeling alive in everything you do will enrich your life exponentially, right? So then you don't need external anything else. And then that, like for me, I've noticed, and when I piece that back to what my story's been, is that when I see women that feel alive in their motherhood, life is good. When I see women that are alive in their connection with their, with nature and with presence, they're good. Their relationships are good. Like, men the same as well, speaking to men about their worthiness and what they're here to do. When they feel of worth and they recognize it was all within them, they're good, right? And life is simple. We make it complicated. And so that's the crux of why I do what I do. And it's not work for me. My God, it's not work for me. I work, in a tangible sense, a lot of hours in different ways throughout the week. But it's not work. I know exactly where I'm supposed to be. I know exactly why I'm here. I know who I am. So there's that piece of who am I not to serve this with this much love in my heart?
Yeah. And where did this come along that journey? Like, was it the inner peace retreat? Was it the becoming a mother? Was there what were those moments where it was like, this is important for me to share this?
I would say, I've definitely played my part as a bit of a toxic feminine in the past, especially in my very first relationship, which was my high school romance. And then moving through and identifying when I was then looking for connected relationships, I knew that there was a lot of growth to do. Becoming a mother was definitely one of those things. Children will mirror back to you exactly what we've been moving away from, or things we didn't even know were there. And also for me, the gathering of women for parts in my life where I felt unseen, unheard, lost in who I was. I knew that this we had to bring it together, from my own experience. I knew that we had to continue this work. It's the cyclical cycle, particularly of women, to come together and gather in circle. Same as men, differently, but that's our cycle, coming together. We flow through. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And did it change when you became a mother?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just explaining to you before, when you become a mother, you become beyond yourself. You are no longer just invested in yourself. You become, the moment that I conceived, grew my children, birthed my children, fed my children, and then every moment to now that I get to wipe a tear, hold their hand, listen to their voice, hear their experience, get to know my children, right? Has exponentially blown my heart open. And so when I think of life, I think, man, I have to remind myself, I've made it. I've made it. Everything else is a bonus, but I've made it. And, I would love to make mothering and parenthood great again. Because sometimes it gets really undervalued.
I love that, because after becoming a father this year, it really put into perspective. I've been on the personal development train for 12 years now, and it was always like, purpose is outside of you. It's the things that you do and achieve and this. And when you hold your child, and you go, oh, nothing else matters. We need money to pay the bills and all that sort of stuff, but it does not matter what car I drive or how much I earn to a point. But where I live, whether you're renting, whether you're not, whether you're living in your car, whatever it may be, this is my purpose right now. And I kind of understood that before being a parent, because I had young nieces and nephews, and I was like, wow, but it was also not my responsibility. So it was until I had my little boy that it was like, oh wow, I don't have to do anything. I can, but this is my mission right now. And I love that you want to bring that back to, this is also very important. Why do you think people don't see that or don't value it?
It's interesting, right? So the greatest job of being a parent is like, and I'm going to speak from the mother's perspective, obviously, but obviously the father's perspective is just as big. There are no podcasts for everyday mothers that are on minimal sleep, that are eating leftovers, that are crying because they're so exhausted, and they are doing the slog. That's the unseen work to greatness. There are no podcasts that mention, not even podcasts, but we don't validate or put up the reels of how, you might have felt like you've lost yourself, but your children are healthy, safe, and got a roof over their head. It's the unseen work. And I feel like because we've looked outside of ourselves, also, there's a couple of other conflicting factors, in terms of like patriarchal ways that, swung the other way, and women having to go back to work, also economically, all those type of things that might take us away from the mothering role. But it is an undervalued role, being a parent, and that being your full purpose. And that's why, like, circling back to previously, all this will go. All this will go. How your children speak of you is what stays. How you are remembered by the people that you grew. Like, I think I'm awesome. I grew my favourite people. Like, I Like, I love to hang out with them. And it's not to say I'm a perfect parent. I really want to disclaim that, because I don't want there to be any guilt of like, oh, I'm such a shit parent. Like, that is not at all what I'm doing. But also, I'm really aware that there's been a big time when I haven't shared how beautiful my marriage is. And there's been a time when I have sat with other parents that are like, this is killing me, blah, blah, this and that. I've sat back and not shared about how much I enjoy motherhood, because I don't want people to feel like I'm showcasing that it's a breeze for me. I've done a lot of work to show up to these two roles because I'm committed to them and I see them as my purpose. So yeah, I just want to kind of initiate that in that I definitely am not a mum. I still yell, I still get it wrong. I'm still, when I say devotional to those two practices, we can romanticize that word as well. Devotional means that I'm also here for all the unshiny bits where it's icky and uncomfortable as well. So I just want to be really clear on that too. But yeah, just remembering that your purpose is the way your children might look at you today. And that's huge. The way you walk through the door and they see you is immense purpose. The way you wrap your arms around them is purpose.
And to dive a little deeper here is, did you feel that growing up and that inspired you to be this way, or was it a case of not having it?
No, my mum, it's really funny when people see me and Jamie together. We both work at a wellness centre, separate days, and everyone's like, whoa, you guys are siblings, like your parents must be amazing, they must be into this work. And we laugh because we're like, no. In actual fact, my mum, she's very proud, but she's always like, I've just learned so much from you guys. But her frequency of love is what I got from her. She's the most selfless, giving, nurturing, beautiful woman, but she also gave me a very clear guideline of how she lost herself. And so that was really good for me. I have a very healthy relationship with my father. It's interesting when you're in a family, though, you can have siblings that all have different relationships. I have a very good relationship with my father, very healthy relationship, masculine relationship. But I've also had to relearn a lot that I didn't want to bring into my next family. To my family. Yeah. Constant observation, constant noticing patterns, constantly just trying to be aware. Yeah.
The part that I really can appreciate is the fact that, like we were saying before, like we can look at our lives and be like, okay, I need to, my vision for my life normally has all the things we want to achieve. And motherhood, being a parent, is not, I don't think, as championed enough or put as, like you said before, like as such an important role. Like, you play such a big role in the next generation of humans that are coming up. And I look at, my parents and, I love them so much, and, similar. My mum has got so much love and support. And for me, you're never going to know that until you become a parent, because you just, we grow up and we go, you don't understand me. And you what is it? You idolize demonize and then humanize.
Yep.
And, you know, I had to mature quite quickly moving away at 16, you know, 6 hours from my parents. So that kind of happened really quickly for me. And I fear when that's going to happen with my son, but hopefully I'm more aware to be like, okay, do your thing, man. But when you get to that point of being a parent, it's why do you think it's not? Why do you think people struggle to sit in the simplicity of being a parent is my biggest role? And I understand the side of losing the identity. And feeling like, well, because it's never been there before. You've now got a human, you've gone through all these changes and shifts, and it's just like, you're this now. You know, we talked about before, where it's like the old self, new self. It's not like you said, oh, I'm going to kill that old self and here's the new self. It's like, this is happening. You somewhat don't get a choice in this, and it's just happened, and then you've got this little crying alien baby thing that you're just like, well, what do I do? Like, because I know you can do as much preparation as you want, but once it's there, it's your child is there. It's, you know, there's initiations, yes, but how can you ever be prepared for that? Like, why do you think people struggle with that? Then coming back into life and being like, this should be one of my primary roles.
A couple of things, but I think because people don't really give themselves the chance to do the work before they have children. I notice a lot of people that literally look bitch slapped by parenthood because they're like, whoa, and being a parent and being responsible for another human showcases a lot of your irresponsibilities, your lack of, a whole lack of things that you have to improve on. Right, and it's talking about before, you know, like there is the maiden and the prince where you're completely self-absorbed, you can have a good time, there's no sense of being beyond yourself. But when you become a parent, you do have to learn quick and you do have to learn fast. And if you don't know yourself enough before you head into parenthood, that's when we can witness a lot of shifts happening. There are a lot of separations in relationships in that first year of the babies being born, because you don't really know your partner when they're sleep deprived, when they're needy, when they're down and out. You might have had a very different version of them. So if you're not willing to put in the hard yards and deal with the discomfort of what's going to come up, say the shadow side of having to go through parenthood, and if you can't do that with yourself as well, when we get into parenthood, we might reject it. A lot of mums go through postpartum depression, right? And I do think that's because there is a level of letting go of the maidenhood that we haven't initiated into. So that's why I think some people might reject the role, and also because it showcases a lot to us. And if we're willing to look at it, it can be beautiful and expansive. But if we're not willing to look at it, well, we tend to pass on all these things that we'd rather avoid. And, you know, children are not like, you know, they're pretty stuck with you then. So yeah, that can tend to be what I do notice, is that people have not gone through the correct rite of passage. They haven't given themselves enough knowledge of what it's going to look like. And like you said, you can't prepare. The only thing you can control is yourself. So who do I have to become in this moment is the constant asking beyond myself. Who do I have to become? What does that look like? But to be aware of the amount of suffering that you might be at play with your own new identity, it's a hard pill to swallow too. How much we're willing to take accountability for parts of us that need to grow is a big pill to swallow. But that's, yeah, you can't avoid it if you want to have conscious relationships with children, partners, whoever, people you're helping facilitate. Just comes with it.
And like the opposite is like, you can just do it and be super unaware of what you're doing. And I think have it in your life as like, it's a role, but you know, there's like you said, there's the devotion. I don't know what the opposite would be, but like you're devoted to it, or the other side where it's, just a mum, whatever, just
And that's what we can see, right? So some people might be like, okay, the course of events is I get married, I have children, I now have these add-ons, I put them through school, they go here at this time, I then pick them up, they then have these extracurricular activities because I think that's what's best for them, and then they go through school and I put expectations on them to be a human of this caliber. Most of those people don't know who their children are, and I know that because I'm working with those people one-on-one. And that's what I'm saying is significant in life, is that I can meet children that have had an abundant upbringing. They've gone to the best schools. They've got all the things they need. And all they want to do is be seen and heard. And then they play that out in their own relationships everywhere. It spills out. So that's why parenting is a big responsibility. It's a big responsibility. And you know what? You are going to fail along the way. God, I fail all the time. I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm winging this. Like I was saying to you before, I don't have anyone that's doing what I'm doing right now that I can look up to, that has 3 children under this age, that wants to parent with these values in this relationship and serve a community. I'm looking around. I'm like, who do I have to pay to help me through this, right? There's no one that's relative to me right now. And so we are becoming the mentors we need. And that's huge. It's like no biggie, right? We are literally having to, when that comes, we're having to do a lot of failure along the way so that we know better. And that's what I mean. Like that's big work. It's big work. Yeah, but that's what I witness with parenting and the cycles that can continue, and how at any moment you can stop a cycle though. At any moment, every single day, you can change and be different. You can, try something new, reach the support you need. Parenting and it's a village concept as well. So it's good to reach out and be around other people that share your values of that.
You mentioned before about the maiden and the prince and
the archetypes.
And I want to touch on that because you mentioned it, and I think if no one knows, and even myself, like if you just know a little bit, it's like, what did you just say? So what's maiden, prince, these archetypes? Because this is part of your work that you do?
Yeah. So I take this type of work in with most places where I'm doing predominantly women's work, so I'll speak from my lens of womanhood, but my retreats are all around the different archetypes that are within us as women. Okay, so 2 archetypes that we would know for women in society would be the maiden, which is a woman that's before she's had children, and then the mother. And we know these 2 because the maiden resembles, she's got all this time and energy up her sleeve. She can be completely self-absorbed. She's very creative. She's got this fertile energy, right? But on that, you might notice and might be relatable that she plays the good girl. Okay, and then we have the mother, who then becomes the nurturer, the nourisher. She's the person you come to be held, to be loved. She will give you everything. She's completely selfless, right? We might also know her as the overgiver. So we in society really celebrate those 2 parts of womanhood, right? We love good girls and we love selfless women, which is a beautiful attribute to have. But residing within all of us as well are other archetypes, such as the wild woman. And people go, oh, so she's like wild? I'm like, no, this is the woman that's intrinsically linked to nature. People tend to look at me and they go, oh, I love a good blow wave. I love all those dresses and all this sort of stuff. But my archetype, my favorite one, is wild, is being locked into the earth. Give me 0 clothing, rolling around in the ocean, singing with my sisters. That's my favorite archetype. So I am locked into the earth, and my wild woman is unapologetic. And we need that archetype for places like motherhood, where you need to be unapologetic for your children, right? You come near my kids, I'll rip your head off. We need that archetype in us. The other archetypes are like the archetypes around, the lover. So she's the erotic woman. That can get a lot of shame in society and be taboo. But the reality is we all love sex, right? We're built for it. We love it. That's how we procreate. But a woman as well, she tends to be really disconnected from that because it is so taboo. And it's an archetype we explore and also know that it's for ourselves. It doesn't have to be for validation or anyone else. And, there's a queen. And then we look at the masculine, and just a couple that might be relatable is like we know the king, right? The king archetype. He's an archetype that makes decisions for the greater good. people respect his counsel, and he is able to lead with integrity, right? So we know king energy, we know king archetype. But the prince, which simultaneously might be relatable to the maiden, is that, you know, he's got like, almost like I call it peacock energy, right? He can run around, he can do what he wants, he's got more ego, he's got more bravado, he loves a banter, he loves to hang out with the boys, and he doesn't have much responsibility because he's not a king yet, right? So he's living large. And so there's that archetype that plays out in both masculine and feminine. And for me, the big crux of the work is that for women who I do this work,
just to explain, you said mother and maiden.
Yeah, mother, maiden, king and prince. Oh, no, the other archetypes I was talking about with women.
Yeah. So mother, maiden, and then the opposite of those would be prince and father.
Prince and king. Yeah. Oh, well, you actually could, the father,
would there be a queen?
Yeah, so there's queen, yeah, so queen and king. Yeah, but you could probably actually do...
We need a diagram that pops up and shows
to come through. But you probably could do, mother and father.
Or would that come with king?
King. Well, it kind of falls under king, but mother is separate and queen is separate when it comes to women. But there would be a relatability there. I wonder if that would be another archetype. I should look into that. So having those archetypes and knowing that they are a part of who we are and exploring them gives us a chance to feel fully alive. And it's about noting that you're not always going to have one archetype in the running the whole time. You kind of know, you've got the lover that might come through and you're like, sister, you can't be driving the car all the time. You need to jump into the back. And, you get the mother to come in. And then it's about just exploring that energy. But when we understand that energy, it's sometimes relatable for each of us to understand our emotions and kind of where we're at, especially in relationships. Yeah.
And these archetypes are like they're hats that we or energies that we
energies,
roles that we wear at certain points. So it's not like you can still be a mother and have maiden.
You have all of them.
Okay.
We have all of them. So same with you. Like another archetype within you would be the hunter in a masculine energy. You go out to hunt with purpose. Right? You understand your whole body and your somatics, your 360-degree peripheral. Your senses are heightened. You know exactly what you're looking for. That's the hunter. In it as a masculine.
Relatable to...
The feminine would be the wild woman.
As in the hunter in terms of... That could be relatable to in terms of...
Your work.
Work? Yeah, okay,
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your work. When you are providing, your hunter needs to come out.
Yep.
Right? So when you are providing and when you are leading and you're out there, that's what the masculine energy has, you guys are purpose driven. You don't like it when the feminine gets all chaotic in your way because it's taking you away from your purpose, right? We come in, like, what are you feeling? What are you thinking? I would like to know your opinion here. You want to get from A to B and you want to do the best job you can do there. So the hunter energy comes in to be like, just let me do my job. Let me do my job. Let me do it well. So recognizing these different archetypes, recognizing masculine and feminine energy gives a sense of unity into your relationships.
So I love this, and I'm sure there's courses that you've got that go through this because there's so much to unpack here.
Yeah.
But from the knowledge that I have on this and from what you're saying, like we have them all. They obviously show up at different times, but I'm guessing there must be a kind of misalignment with people, or they might be wearing different roles at the different times where it's not serving them. What are you seeing happening, or what's kind of familiar in the work that you're doing that you're seeing that people aren't really understanding these archetypes or when to use them?
Yeah. So that can play out, right, at the wrong time. And so first of all, it's about actually acknowledging that you have the archetypes within you and knowing that they are going to come out when different emotional responses, because the emotion tends to really bring them out, right? So when I say my wild woman as well, right, like out in the earth, my wild woman is most present in my day when I'm scrubbing dishes in the morning, right? So I'm fully in my feeling and I'm like, this is me, Carla. I'm like, I was put on earth more than to scrub these oats, right? But I'm in my fullest feeling. I'm really aggressive. I'm like, oh, but then I've completed that, right? So then she's done what she needs to do. Okay, cool. I'm back to my task driven. I'm back to my kids. I'm back in the mother. Right? So I'm acknowledging that different parts throughout my day require different archetypes for me to come through. So what can happen though, if we are really in wanting validation for ourselves as a woman, for example, and we might put the lover on, and we might be walking down the street and being really, in our magnetic energy. Sometimes that's not safe for a woman. Sometimes that's not safe to be oozing out this magnetism, and sometimes that's sacred and not meant for another person. So we have to really be like, okay, where do I hold a sacred containment for my lover to be felt, be with myself, feel really good about it, and then go, cool, sister, in the back of the car, let's move now to the queen so that we can go make good decisions today, speak at work, hold our head high, and then put that back. And I'm leaving work now, and I'm going to go for a walk, and I'm going to bring up my maiden, and I'm going to stop and smell the roses. These are examples of the ways that we can work with our archetypes, understanding our emotions that are attached to them. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the benefit of knowing these is...
The benefit of knowing these is that you can be fully expressed in all of them without shame, and they make you can feel alive in these, right? There's nothing, these are all part of who you are. You can play around with them. You don't have to be boxed into one identity. We are multifaceted, multi-dimensional beings. So play around with those different archetypes so that you can feel in different experiences the different things that are available to you, right? That's part of, for me, with womanhood, bringing women out of just those two, the mother and maiden, and being like, hey, here's a silver platter of like other options you can play around with. And they're like, oh, yeah, I am angry sometimes. Cool. Bring out the wild woman and feel your anger. Let it go. How good's anger? We can have a relationship with it now. So now we understand what boundaries we need, what actually I value. But if we suppress those type of things because we see them as shadow sides like aggression and too much, then we don't actually have an understanding of what our boundaries are, what's worth fighting for. So it kind of brings it into that context of like, get to know yourself, feel alive. Yeah.
Because I feel like if you said before, like some, let's say in the women's side of things, they might, or the feminine side of things, they might feel shame around, the certain archetypes or whatever. And maybe they were told from a young age, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Or you shouldn't do that as a woman or whatever it may be. You then spend the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years going, I can't feel that. Even though there's something in me that's wanting to feel that, I can't do that because, I was told not to do that.
Yeah. And that happens more often than not, right? Is like you've been told that that's not who you are, but you know that the feeling's there. So then let's actually bring in the somatic sense. Let's bring in the breath. Let's bring up the psyche. Let's be in the environment of other women pulsating and co-collaborative with this energy. Let's like bring it here. All of you is welcome here. What does that look like? And that's, for me, what's blown my eyes open with women that are just like, oh, holy moly, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for some women, if you follow the thread of curiosity, you can, and it's brave to follow that thread of curiosity from what you've been told. But I've seen some pretty huge things happen to women that have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when does it because my thing is that, one thing I'm realizing more and more is that it never stops. This life is just always spiraling, always happening, always evolving, always moving. Get to one mountain, there's another one to climb. For let's say anyone that's listening, masculine or feminine, masculine or feminine, anyone, because we all have masculine and feminine within us, anyone listening, like, where does someone, or what would you, because you coach and mentor people, where's the point where, or what do you say to people to keep reminding them that, hey, this is a process that just keeps happening. Because I know, even for myself, there's times where I go, have I not fucking learned it yet? Like, I thought I did this seminar, or I did this thing.
Yeah.
Like, because, like you said before, and I love that you were so open about it, and I'm very much the same, where it's like, I'm failing every day in certain aspects.
Yeah.
I'm winning as well.
Yeah.
But I'm failing because I'm learning. That's my relationship to failure. It's like I'm learning different things. I'm trying different things because I don't know until I try.
Right.
So, yeah, how do you then remind your clients that like this is a process? Like you're constantly playing these roles and learning them to know yourself better.
Yeah, and also just acknowledging that who you were a year ago when you did this course is different to who you are a year now. Yeah. Right? So giving yourself grace. So when people come to me, they're like, I thought you were going to make me feel better. I feel worse and I feel like I should know something different. And I'm like, no, the fact that you're feeling and being curious with yourself is enough. Yeah. right? That's enough for you just to be like really curious with the continuous growth of who you are. That's enough. Give yourself the time and space to work with it, and stop giving yourself a allocated time to have had it all done by. Like, that's just completely, it's unrealistic. And how awful to put that on yourself, right? And being okay with that, my version of what this looks like will be different to your version. But can we feel into it anyway?
Yeah.
And, some days that might look subtle, and some days that might look explosive. And all of it's fine. It's gratifying or ungratifying. It just is. The work just is. It just is. And it's not to say some days I don't wish I was a muggle, right? Like, I'm like, oh, I wish that I just didn't go down this journey and I could just stick my head in the sand and just, But such is life. And if we are here for this small amount of time, which we are here for a tiny blip of time. And for whatever reason, I'm down here living this life with my family, creating my own family, having this relationship. I'll be damned if I don't feel every single moment of it. And feelings don't cost you anything. It doesn't make you be anything. Just to feel your feelings is your superpower. That's all you can do. And that's enough. That's enough.
And it's a good reminder. Like, it's really simple.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going through as, mother, not a mother, maiden, queen, all these things that might have confused a listener, but hopefully you're taking somewhat of these things in. I know it can be a lot to process sometimes, but wherever you are, like keeping it really simple and,
take it back. Just keep it simple. Like, how am I feeling today? Yeah. Okay, let's not cognitively just respond to that. Let's actually feel like, where is this feeling in my body? Yeah. How am I feeling it? How can I bring awareness to now? And can we just say to ourselves, I'm here now, I feel now. That's more profound or bigger than what most people are actually doing. Yeah. Being with ourselves now. It's enough. Yeah.
And it's what's required. I think that we do tend to, especially if you have gone down the path of some sort of personal growth, we overthink a lot.
Yeah.
And, the one of the interesting parts of social media, even society, we compare and sometimes we only see the good things and people's highlights.
Yep.
So that then comes back to us and we go, well, why don't I feel that way or look this way or this or that? Or we see, an archetype of somebody else that's in that role right now and we're like, well, I don't feel that right now. It's like, well, you're not in that role right now.
Yeah.
You can choose it, but also it might not be necessary. We were talking about this on our walk.
Yeah.
Just having friends where we're just like, they're not in. I was saying when I was going through, the birth of my child and stuff like that, it was hard to relate to someone that wasn't a father or to share with them because they'd be like, certain friends that don't have responsibilities, don't have children, don't even have a house.
Different seasons, yeah.
Different seasons. And it was just like, I love you, I respect you. But I'm kind of needing someone that can kind of empathize from that place because it's a totally different feeling.
Yeah.
And that role comes with different perspectives.
Yeah.
And at that time I needed that. And I think that's really nice to hear for people that are listening or watching. Like, it can be difficult in those times, whichever one you're in, because you might even be in the maiden, let's say the single person amongst friends that all are married and have kids.
Yeah.
And you might be like, I can't relate.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's just understanding that like you are where you are and that's okay.
Yeah.
But there's different things that we can do to, and different roles that we can play.
And I think also, it's your self-responsibility to be knowledgeable if you care about someone, to invest in like what they're going through, right? We were saying this, even though you're not a parent, doesn't mean that you can't put yourself in my shoes for just a second and just actually having a conversation, being really clearing and transparent. It's like, I'm just going to sit you down, right? And I'm going to show you what my day is like. And this is how it makes me feel. And if you could just be considerate to my circumstances, that would be really supportive, right? Because we can't expect someone that hasn't walked that path to support us if they don't know how. So that's how we need to be clear. So that's my biggest thing when I talk about codes with friends or with anyone else. It's like, I need to be really transparent with what I desire, what's going on for me, in a way that's not like, you don't do this, you don't do that. It's like, I feel like this is my experience. Can I ask that you support me in this way? It's transparent, it's clear, it gives the other person a sense of responsibility as well. And that way we just have like this, you know, good humanity to each other of like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, that's an appropriate time to catch up and this is a better time for you. Right, cool. So we work with each other. You have to understand each other's, I guess, you know, own unique codes, even though you're different, right?
Yeah.
It's even in friendships, you know, someone might be like, you know, someone that might be, you know, gets really pissed off when you flake on them, right? And as a parent, you kind of need that leeway because when your children come up, they're first and foremost. So, but their, like, you know, their values might be like, I need to feel like I'm important here. And so you need to be able to have that honest, clear conversation around, this is not about you. And I want to make that really clear. This is what can potentially happen. So you set up the pretense of like, let's just avoid any wounds happening here now based on what your expectations are. And let me show you what's within my capacity. So yeah, I really appreciate when maidens, for example, you know, they're really considerate around, you know, mother's time. You know, sometimes people will be like, let's catch up for dinner at 9 p.m. I'm like,
9 p.m.
Yeah, I'm like, 9 p.m. I'm like, girl, no. I'm like, I'm off to bed then. They're like, well, you never want to see it. And it's like, let me explain what this looks like.
Yeah.
And so, oh, okay, cool. You know, so there's a sense of responsibility that you have to play in those relationships with each other.
This is such a really good point, and I don't think this is talked about enough, and it's something that I like to touch on and share, and I want to talk more about, is that, you know, again, becoming a parent, it's like I never understood my mate who was just never had time for me. He's like, the kid. There is a point where I think there is playing into it a bit too much, and if you want to do something, you would. But there's the side of like, regardless of anyone's situation, it's communicating it.
Yeah.
And communicating not from a place of understand me or else.
No.
It's, I'm going to try and communicate so that you can try and understand. But then your side of it is just be open to understand and not being like, well, you shouldn't do that. Or you shouldn't go to bed at 9 o'clock. Or you should have more time for us. Or you should, like, I don't know, maybe it was that, like we were saying before, like maybe it's because we've been through so many situations, and maybe it was pain, or maybe it was trauma, whatever it may be, to then be like, I need to be a little bit more, not lighthearted, but less emotionally invested in.
Yeah.
I can't find the word.
In the way that you're being received.
Yeah.
Or communicate. And
for example, I'll share an example. Like, I'm going to be traveling soon, and I've had podcasts lined up. And, you know, for example, or even recently, one had to be moved. And it's like, okay, I have to book the space. I have to, you know, I'm organizing my schedule, and I've got work, I've got this, I've got business, I've got child, all of these things. But I'm also like, okay, like if they message and say, hey, I've got, you know, whatever the message is, if they're saying, I can't make it, and whatever the reason is, whether they give a reason or not, I'll be like, okay, I hope you're okay. I hope you're safe. And it's okay. We'll reschedule. Like, it's really not too much off my back. It's annoying. It's unfortunate. Like, if you would have messaged this morning and be like, Carlo, I'm sorry, I can't come. No explanation. Can't come. Can we reschedule? I'd be like, Sophie, no problem. I hope you're okay. Hope everything's all good. Here's my calendar. Let's reschedule. If you were to give a little bit more context, well, you don't have to, but like if it was like, see how the ending was, I'd love to reschedule. Can you let me know some dates? If it was, no response, well, then you'd be like worried. But I feel like even from like years ago when I was dating and like someone wouldn't turn up, right? I've had it happen. I'd just be like, all right, well, I've got time to catch up on my social media or whatever it may be. Like, it never fazed me. I definitely wouldn't let them do it a couple of times, because then it would be like, hey, you're not respecting my time. But I think that element of communication of, it's okay for us to not want to do something, or if you said, hey, Carl, it's just, again, I'm not feeling it, whatever. I'd sit here and maybe be like, all right, but I'd be like, cool, like at least you've told me. I'm not going to be like, fuck you, this, and my day's ruined. And it's like, cool. Like, I can't, things are going to happen. And for most cases, it doesn't get rescheduled.
Yep.
But it happens. I've had to do that because of, something to do with my child.
Life.
And I've had to be like, hey, I can't do this. And I've had friends respond and be like, even I was saying before about my little brother, who's been like, oh, why are you making me reschedule? And it's like, you have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
Like, I wish you did.
Yeah.
And even after having this conversation is something I'm going to bring into those conversations.
Yeah.
But when my friend used to do that to me, I'd be like, bro, it's just a kid.
So the key thing here is, right, communication is not a gift, it is a skill. You have to learn good communication. You can't just expect that you're going to be like able to have communication that's transparent, clear and honest. It's a skill. You have to keep working on it. And it's the same as like space holding, for example, like we were saying with that. It's like whenever I'm needing to have a clearing conversation, or if I'm opening up space, clients, facilitation, anything, set the tone. Set the tone. Hey, I really want to have a conversation with you tonight. I'm going to really just lovingly ask that you come in with an open heart, because there's some things that I want to speak to that might feel really triggering, but I just want to speak about from my perspective because I'm feeling like it's really hard on my heart. And I want to share this with you. So even with me and my husband, when we have to have those conversations, we set the tone. We're not just walking in with our emotions like a hot potato because it feels so hot and alive and like my communication goes out the window, I just chuck it. That's my responsibility, right? Self-accountability, self-awareness, self-responsibility and selflessness are key parts to the way that we communicate and have good relationships. All of them. Parents, your family, children, your clients. You have to be aware of all those things. So, yeah, you have to actively it has to actively be learned. And, I don't know if you've heard, I know this is a bit generalized, but the older generation can tend to go, that's just me. That's just me. And they throw their hands up. And I'm like, well, there's no gateway for us to continue here until you're willing to come in here and just listen to me. All I'm asking is that you listen. That's it. So starting with baby steps, and when you are well versed and you do have a, general curiosity for communication and emotional intelligence and stuff like that, you can help shape that. You can help offer that in ways that they can probably receive it. Understanding tone, rapport, the way you're offering it, how you're energetically opening yourself to somebody is really important to gaining that with another person. So, yeah, it's a skill. And you have to keep practicing on it. I
think everyone needs to keep practicing on it.
Absolutely.
I think, honestly, people are shit at it.
Yeah.
And it needs to improve. And I think there's so many situations that would not so much be avoided. I don't think that's the case, but could be prevented if things were just over-communicated a little bit more.
Yep.
Not the one-word reply.
Yep.
And sometimes, yes, even if it's... I love how you said set the intention, because when you do that, it's one, you're not asking for permission. Well, I ask now. It's like, may I offer a reflection? Because sometimes people can come in with just a vomit, and it's like, I think you should do blah 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 blah, and it's like, I didn't ask for your fucking permission or your opinion, so thanks, but I don't care.
Yeah.
But and it was a good friend of mine, Dan, who said, he goes, can I offer a reflection? And sometimes I said, no, I don't want to fucking hear it.
I need a soundboard, right?
Yeah.
So getting into that contact of like, what do you actually need right now? Are you asking for my advice, or are you asking me to give you observation? Sorry, to space hold. Being really clear with that straight off is really good, because it sets a gateway. You're like, oh, you're just wanting to rant. Cool.
Because sometimes you're not, the other person is not available.
No.
And I've had to set these boundaries recently with a friend and just be like, they were like, can I call you? And I'm like, no. Like, I'm not.
Yeah.
I've got my own things that I'm doing right now.
Yep.
Tomorrow, I can give you a call.
Yep.
It's not like I'm saying, I just didn't reply back saying no. It was, not right now.
Yeah.
Can I call you tomorrow?
Yeah, here's my option.
Yeah.
So here's the boundary, but here's the invitation, which suits in those parts. And it's like the dance, right, of being considerate, but also being affirming to making sure you're not self-abandoning.
Yeah.
Because I've had to do the exact same thing, with those things. It's like, they're like, can I call you? No, I'm not available with my kids. When I'm with my kids, my phone is away.
Yeah.
So no, now's not going to work. But tomorrow I'll have this space. Yeah. And everyone's really respectful. I don't really know anyone in my life that would chuck their hands up in the air anymore. But, which is really good for me, because it means that, the tribe in which I'm creating, we're all similar frequency, which just makes co-living together amazing.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, it's a thing. Set an intention, be really clear, know what your capacity's at, and be really just open. Don't make everyone's assumptions about, don't take it personally as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the joy of life, isn't it? You have emotions, you have people that are put in your life to test those emotions and triggers and all those beautiful things.
Absolutely. It's what it's here for. That's what I mean. Like when, we say we're fully feeling beings, it's like, yeah, you're also here to feel heartbreak, grief, frustration, anger. That's just part of the process. But like, sign us up. What an epic thing to be a human, to feel all of that, you know?
Well, we did sign up for it.
Did.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
I don't know where the contract was. I didn't read the terms and conditions, but it's kind of a theme for my life of not reading the terms and conditions.
And just in the gauntlet.
It's just
Free falling.
deal with the consequences later, and hopefully you'll take a bit of a breath before you make a decision.
Hopefully.
How can people bring more devotion into their life?
How can you bring more devotion? Make life beautiful. Be in the moment, right? So like, how can we be here? For me, healing is spaciousness. Spaciousness for me means I'm fully available to the moment I walk in to get my coffee in the morning, looking at my barista in the eyes, like, hi, how you doing? Thank you. That's spaciousness, because I can notice somebody that's just started my day well. That's devotion. That's a devotional practice. It's like when I get in the car and I am aware of what's going on. That's my devotion to the present. I'm devotional when I walk down the street and I'm like, wow, look, like my friends always say, like, because I'm a shocker for like, oh my God, and there's like a rose bush. And I'm like, oh, right? So it's like life is full of heaps of beauty, and we can bring that devotion every day. So it's like, how can you enrich and make your life beautiful? Life is, there's so much you can do, whether that be just like, aesthetically, like bringing in one of those roses and putting it in your house, sitting down and carving out time, putting your phone away from your children, meeting another person in the eyes, really meeting them, really seeing somebody, whether that be your barista, the cleaner down the road, or your partner, right? Making a meal rather than doing it robotically, like for me, like nourishing my children, nourishing my husband, it's like how much love. So some days I walk in, it's like chaotic, and I'm like, whoa, clear that energy, because you can't cook food with that energy. You're feeding your family with that. Like, clear that. That's how I'm devotional. It's the small unseen parts that make devotion for me, right? Devotion to my partner. What do you need from me today? Just simple. That's devotion. My kids, actually being intent and listening. I get into their world. That's how I'm devotional to them, actually. It's like, whoa, I'm not a huge player. Like, they really like, play with me, Lego here. And I'm like, but I get into the world so that I can understand why the Lego's exciting, right? So that's my devotion to them. Devotion to my community is like being of this space where my cup is full so that I can be there to love them and to remembering to love themselves. That's how I'm devotional to them, is that I come forward with all this love in my heart. And, cool, what do you need today? Same thing. Some of my clients don't actually know what they're coming for. They're like, I don't know why I'm here. You have a whole list of stuff, but and I'm like, well, let's just start. Let's just start with getting to know each other. And then we work through. I'm like, how can I serve you today? It's like how I show up. So servitude in humans is innate. That's actually what we are meant to do. We really are. We're meant to be a servitude. So devotion in life and servitude, like bring it into what's around you. We can think that being a facilitator and offering all these wonderful modalities is like servitude. Check on your friends. Send them a message. Good morning, I'm thinking of you. Drop off a meal to a friend that's not been well. Drop off a coffee to somebody that's been working long hours. Send a love note. Something. That's servitude. That's devotion. It's devotion to our love as people. Yeah.
I can tell that you have a big heart, and it's like, servitude, you're very giving, and I say that in the best way.
Yeah.
Like, I know there's the aspect of like over giving and people that are just giving all the time, and even from the selfless place, even if it's, you're empty, you're still giving. Like, yes, people can say that's bad and whatever, but, you know, I love that about certain people. It's that Mother Teresa sort of energy of just like, here to give.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are times in my life where I'm feeling like, whoa, this is all a lot. And still servitude for me will actually bring back the light for me.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes.
Because you love it.
I love it.
Yeah. Like, it's similar. Like, I a lot of chaos when it comes to organising events and workshops and communities and all that sort of stuff. But as soon as I get, let's say, on the stage or doing it or running the meditation or the masterclass, whatever it may be, it's like I'm here for this.
Yes.
Like, this fuels me.
This is where I'm meant to be.
Yeah. Right?
And so that's what I mean. Like, I think sometimes we can get caught up that the purpose and the giving and the things should look a certain way, but like your servitude in the unseen work is powerful work. Like those small pieces of checking in on people around you. But yeah, always checking in with what your capacity is, you know, will serve you as well. But I am well supported from the life that I've created. And so I've got a big cup to give. Yeah. And I like that about me. Yeah. And I've got enough self-discernment to go, whoa, I've way overcommitted here. So some friends will say to me, oh, God, I'm so glad you cancelled on helping me move or whatever. Like, you really needed a break. I'm like, yeah, I'm just reading into it. So, but that does, it lights me up. I know why I'm here. Yeah. I love my people. When I love them hard. Like, I love hard. Yeah.
If you had one last post you could put on social media and then you couldn't post anything else, and it was your last message to share from all what you've learnt and what knowledge you've attained over the years, what would your last message be?
What would it be? I think it would be what I was saying before, Carlo, in that everything else falls away. Everything that you think is big and important in your life falls away. The four walls of your house will one day come down. Everything that you've attained will come down. How people speak, the words that are passed down of you are that's what lasts. The words that you leave behind, the words that are spoken, the mouths that speak about you, that's what lasts. So what are the words someone's going to say about you? What are they going to say? Because people only get a snippet of you when you're on stage or you're working one-on-one. But the words that get passed down from your generation that you have brought into this life or have had impact on, what will those words be? That's what's most important. Yeah. Do it and do it well. We get one chance.
Great words. Great post. I'd like it. Might even
Would
share
you give it a
too.
like?
Yeah. No, I love it. It's such a... Oh, there's so many things to go deeper on, but we do have to wrap it up.
Yep.
Where can people find you and all the good things that you do?
So I'm probably most alive on Instagram, so on Sophie V Saba. I have a website as well, and yeah, you can kind of find me on www.sophievsaba.com. That's where people can find me. I'm hosting a retreat in March and August next year in Bali for women, which is all around the archetypal work. I do one-on-one mentoring. Yeah, lots of cool stuff. Just come connect if that feels aligned to you. I'd love to meet you.
Yeah. I love that a lot of the community that listen to this are females, and I feel like that it'd be very so beneficial. This is not stuff that I haven't really spoken about much on the podcast or had, and why I loved when Jamie when I said to him, hey, is there anyone you'd recommend? Because I do trust recommendations, and because Jamie and I are very aligned in like that genuineness and the intention of what messages we share and who as well. And the only person he recommended was you. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's so beautiful. That speaks volumes because, he's someone that I do trust and I know thinks about things deeply and intentionally. So for him to recommend you, and we hadn't met, and, there is a little bit of me that's like reserved of like, I don't know who this person is. They could recommend anyone. Yeah. But when he was like, my sister, and he said some beautiful words, and then I went and looked at your page and I was like, I feel into this, and seeing even just the stuff in what you wrote, and I knew these topics would come up because it isn't. You can tell when someone's just saying something and saying it because it's the thing to say.
Yeah.
But you never just say things. You also have the journey with it as well.
Yeah.
And for those, just go look at her page to kind of see that. But for me, it's like I'm so grateful that I get to share this connection, but I also get to share in this conversation, because even the walk that we went on, like your ability to listen, your ability to share your kindness and compassion is so beautiful, and I felt that, and I'm just so grateful that I got to share this, and I got to hear about you and what you do, and I know that this isn't going to be the last conversation. There's so much more to talk about, but what you did share, even for me now, like I learnt so much in this, and that's why I was sitting here going, damn it, we don't have 6 hours to go into this, but that's, the journey, though. We get a little taste, and now we get to, in the future, share on more things and maybe to hear more about the things that you know. So thank you for sharing everything that you did.
Thank you so much, Carlo. And I love having a chinwag with masculine. It's so beautiful. It's so enriching to be openly received in this work, and just to know you. And likewise, Jamie's like, you're going to love Carlo. It's going to be great. You guys are going to have such a great conversation. And, thank you. Thank you for bringing this to the world. Thank you for giving a place for my voice and for the others. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that sometimes we can forget how impactful for one person they can hear these things can be. And that's a real big piece for me. Is I'm trying to receive more in my life, because I am a bit of a giver. But to actually receive that something we shared here today might be relevant, that's huge. And you get to do this all the time. So celebrating you and really thanking you for your work. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Heart emoji.
I love it. As the listeners would know, I do what I love, and I love what I do, and that's why I brought the podcast back. It's the external things that come from it. Yeah. Great. Awesome. Yeah. Cool. If 3 people listen to it, great. Yeah. I'm enjoying it because I get to have these conversations. So it's just an amazing, what would you call it? Just an amazing opportunity for everything to happen. So if you have gotten anything, listeners or watchers, if you've got anything, if something stood out to you, I'm sure there's so many points of just things that are ticking off for you and landing, hopefully landing, and wherever you are in your journey, there's going to be something that lands at the right time for you, and we love if you could share that, reach out to either of us. I'm sure you'd love a DM saying, hey, love that. Maybe you can relate, maybe something's inspired you. Go to the Instagram page, The Conscious Podcast. There'll be a bunch of clips from this episode that are up to that you can share. They're normally the most impactful sort of ones that I feel will share a really big message and shake some people up in that message. But even just following and listening in, tuning in, but even if this is the only one you listen to, super grateful to have you here. And until next time, take care, everyone. Peace. Say bye.
Bye. Bye.